Hello and welcome to the 13th meeting of the Top Shelf Society. Today we are talking about The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, a murder mystery, and I'm excited to talk about it. Are you guys? Yeah. Before we do, we'll just cover typical housekeeping stuff. We just decided what our book for July is going to be, and that is, I believe, Firekeeper's Daughter. We agree on that?
Yes.
Yes. So I don't really know much about it. Do one of you guys want to give a quick blurb?
I don't know very much about it either.
Okay.
Read the back.
Okay.
Might be the inside little flap. Yeah.
Okay, there's a little bit here.
Here we go.
I'll just read the little bit. 18-year-old Donis Fontaine has never quite fit in, both in her hometown and on the nearby Ojibwe reservation. She dreams of a fresh start at college, but when family tragedy strikes, Donis puts her future on hold to look after her fragile mother. The only bright spot is meeting Jamie, the charming new recruit on her brother Levi's hockey team. Yet, even as Donis falls for Jamie, she senses the dashing hockey star is hiding something. Everything comes to light when Donis witnesses a shocking murder, thrusting her into an FBI investigation of a lethal new drug. I'm going to leave it there for now.
That took a turn.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, YA romance. Okay.
Yeah, contemporary.
Like, oh, so cute. Murder.
Wow. Seems to be the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're the Top Shelf Society. My name is Kristen. I have a YouTube channel that I sometimes do stuff with, and that is Perks of a Book Flower. And I read all sorts of things. Right now, I'm really loving like thrillers, and for the first time ever, fantasy. So. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about this.
Yeah. But that's me. Angela, tell us about you.
I am Angela. My channel is Angela Rose Reads, much like Kristen, that I will occasionally sometimes post on, but not recently. I read also everything. My favorites are fantasy. I would just probably say my favorite's fantasy. Yeah.
I'm Sarah, and I have a YouTube channel as well. It is Sarah's Reading Nook, and I read with my cat. I've taken a little bit of a break because The Handmaid's Tale has been on the 4th season, and I am a super fan, and I get obsessed with it, and I like look at the Reddit and everything, and that's just completely taken over my life. So I think I'm coming down from it. It will get back to watching videos, but that was a very unexpected hiatus.
My name's Laura, and I have a channel, Laura Reads Pages, and I upload video once a week. And I might have more up there now because I'm on my summer holidays. And yeah, that's me.
I loved your mid-year book tag. That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Which one was that?
Your mid-year book tag.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. I can't believe we're mid-year already.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Olivia. Our honorary member of the Top Shelf Society. All right, well, let's talk about this book. Normally how we do things is we kind of predict who we think might say this book was a top shelf read for them. So do you guys have any predictions this time?
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's not going to be a top shelf for anyone. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say I feel like it might be a similar thing to... What was that book? Oh, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, where it's like we really love it for the genre, but it might not be our particular top shelf.
I think that's really smart. Yeah.
That's my guess.
The only thing I could think is I could see Sarah maybe saying it was a top shelf read. Maybe. I don't know, though.
Well, you said you're into thrillers lately. I don't know if this isn't really a thriller.
Not quite thrilling enough.
Yeah,
for
this
me.
isn't thrilling. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who.
Well, that's okay. We'll find out. We can like be detectives during the live show and like pick up on the vibes, and we'll figure out who's a top shelf read. Okay, so another weird kind of quirky thing we do before we start talking about the book is we kind of imagine what if this book was a food. So we've had like fun things in the past. Our last book was, do you guys remember what food the last book was?
Apple pie? Apple pie came up. I don't know if that's what
yeah. I think it may have been apple pie. Because just like a kind of wholesome food.
Was that for the 4 Winds or?
Uh-huh.
Ah, interesting.
Kind of like a basic, like I feel like in the 4 Winds it was like, down to earth, like people living on the farm, so kind of like a country dessert.
Yeah.
Okay, but this book has completely different vibes. So
Oh, I know. I got one.
Okay.
Do you know that stuff that's been going around on the internet where it looks like something totally normal and then you cut into it and it's a cake?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something like that, or like a 7-layer cake or something that has like lots of layers or isn't what you expect it to be.
Yes, a dessert imposter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think of an upside down cake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that'd be good too. Okay.
We're all into cake right now. That sounds good.
Yes, it's in the realm of cake for sure.
I've been eating way too much cake.
Ooh.
Having baking as a hobby is like so fun, but like so bad for your health because I just eat cake all the time.
That was my life as a baker's daughter.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. There's nothing better than cake for breakfast and lunch, but
And dinner.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get started. And I wanted to know, just before we talk about plot, were there any characters in the story that really stuck out to you?
Oh my gosh.
Caroline.
Like the private detective.
Caroline, yeah. And Poirot.
Oh my
Poirot.
gosh.
Yeah.
She was amazing. That mustache.
Well, I grew up watching all of the BBC Poirot.
Yeah.
So I've always loved Poirot. And I actually had not read a Poirot Agatha Christie. So I didn't know, but like they did him pretty well in the TV shows. And he felt very much like the same character in the book.
He did so well, didn't he? The actor?
He did, David Suchet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him though. Apparently Agatha Christie hated him. Like, I mean, she liked him as a character, but she said she would never want to meet him. Yeah.
You would know all of your secrets.
Yeah, it'd be hard to hide anything from him.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like he, like the whole time he was talking to, oh gosh, this would be a spoiler. Do we want to just go ahead and do spoilers?
Yep.
Okay, because like the whole time he was talking to like the murderer, he was like acting like his friend. Like he was very good at like deceit.
Oh yeah.
I don't feel like we spent a lot of time with many of the others other than Caroline. That's why she stood out to me, because like she was a consistent character, and like would I want to know her in real life? No way. But she was an entertaining one to read about.
She made me laugh. I love the nosy, busybody characters.
It kind of gave me like Emma vibes, like she did a little bit, and he kind of gave me low-key Mr. Knightley vibes a little bit, just like their sort of relationship and how Emma would be.
Yeah. And yeah, she just seemed like a smart woman who had to stay at home because it was whatever year it was.
Exactly. And so like how Emma was kind of like having to create drama because she wasn't able to go live her life, right? Like, and then Caroline is so looked down by Dr. Shepard, which by the way, that name is so funny. If you've seen Grey's Anatomy, right? Dr. Shepard is like the dreamy one.
Oh.
Isn't he?
Never
Oh,
watched that show.
I've seen a couple of episodes, but I don't. Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, Dr. Shepard is like Mr. McDreamy in the TV show Grey's Anatomy. So every time they said Dr. Shepard, I was just thinking of Mr. McDreamy.
It was interesting how Caroline, right? Caroline, she was very good at just sort of like noticing different bits and pieces, and but she didn't quite synthesize it. She was always kind of on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that she knew that her brother did it?
No.
Yeah.
I think because of the ending, no.
Okay.
Because like I don't think he would have killed himself if it wasn't for, because like they said, like they brought up his sister, you know, he's like, don't like spare her, and he said, well, she'll get over grief, but
yeah.
We just jumped right into spoilers, so I'm just going along with it. It's hard not to, with like the whole thing is that's all it's about, so you can't really.
Did anyone finish the book today like me?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone but me.
Well, I have a really bad memory, and I've read a couple of Agatha Christie books before, and I know that I will not remember their names for the live show, and I would just be like, oh, that one person. So I waited till like yesterday and today to read it so that everyone was fresh in my mind for this.
That's interesting that you bring that up, Angela, because a lot of people have said that one of the flaws in Agatha Christie's writing style is that she creates characters that are kind of like two-dimensional and hard to kind of remember. Like they don't leave a lasting impression, other than Poirot, of course. So I wanted to see what you guys thought is kind of more important in a good mystery. Like, would you say having a like good plot is more important, or having like a good solid set of three-dimensional characters?
I think when you have the three-dimensional characters, it becomes more like psychological, and more like a psychological study, more so than like a puzzle. So I think both can be good. I definitely have trouble keeping the story, keeping the mystery and the characters straight in any Agatha Christie. Like, I usually have no idea what's going on, but I find it doesn't really, like, if you have a good couple of like key characters like Poirot at the center of it, it can be fun just like reading it to see those characters and, you know, interact and solve the puzzle. I know like some people will read it and try to figure out the puzzle themselves, but I'm usually like not quick enough to remember all the characters and the situations to ever be able to do that. So,
well, the thing about Christie mysteries, though, I normally would agree. Like, I'm usually pretty good at figuring things out, because like I like to think of the perspective of the author. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you write this if it wasn't important, or is it trying to be a red herring or something? But with Agatha Christie mysteries, most of the time you can't figure it out because there are things that aren't being told to you. You know, like if you do guess it, it's usually a lucky guess, because I saw one that was turned into a play, and like the entire time my husband and I was like, it's that person, it's that person, it's that person, until we'd said the entire cast, because like it's not really given enough evidence for you to figure it out usually. I will say I don't want to be that person, but I actually started tabbing like from the beginning. I thought it was who it was. So like I started tabbing when like something would happen that would indicate that the doctor did it. And I'm glad that I did, because now I can go back and actually look at every single line that like stood out to me that was like, oh yeah, that was him. So
what was for you? I'm just curious. What was for you like the like, oh, it's probably like the doctor, like, because I had a very distinct moment when I was like, and it was very early on, and I was like, oh, shit, they're doing this. They're just doing this. And then I got sort of mad because I was like, this is so used. And I'm like, well, it's used because of Agatha Christie.
That's exactly it. I was thinking about it that way, because this book was written in 1926. And
Yeah.
for me, I know that this is one of her more popular books.
Yes.
And I'm like, why is it any different than any other murder mystery? And I'm like, well, back then, maybe the unreliable narrator hasn't happened that much yet. And so I was like, I bet this is an unreliable narrator. And I think it was, I don't remember the specific moment, but I was just like kind of looking out for it. And then when I started finding it everywhere, I was like, okay, this has to be it. Because like you said, it was probably from her where that became like a big thing. Because I could imagine if like that wasn't a thing, you trusted the narrator, you would be like, oh my gosh, and like shocked at the ending, you know?
Yeah, it's
Was
like
that
become
you?
a,
Oh, that's exciting.
I didn't expect it at all. And like my face, like this was just a few hours ago when I finished, I was just like, that last part when they were talking together, I just could not believe it. Like I didn't see it at all. So it was a good feeling.
That's awesome. See?
I knew it, but not because I figured out that like it made sense that it was him. I just knew it because like I've read And Then There Were None. I've read Murder on the Orient Express. I was like, it's not going to be an obvious, there's going to be a twist or something like jaw-dropping, like Kristen described. And normally his sidekick is Hastings. I'm like, Hastings is conspicuously missing in this one. I don't think there's going to be a Hastings replacement. Like, there's something up with this doctor guy, but I didn't like actually piece together the mystery to figure out that it was him.
What about you, Sarah? What was your definitive moment?
Well, doing autopsies in real life, the thing that flagged me was when first of all, there were a couple of things because I love murder mysteries. Like I watch them all the time at night. Like when my partner and I are just like, what should we watch? A murder mystery. Let's watch that.
So wholesome.
Always like interested in it. So like the first thing was like, oh, the doctor is the narrator. That was my first like, I don't know if I'm going to trust him, but let's see. The second thing was that really got me like suspicious was when he mentioned that he was at the scene of the crime. Like he saw it afterwards, kind of like very quickly after it had happened. And he also did the autopsy. And I thought, but you're not telling us what you actually saw in the autopsy. So then I immediately was like, did he actually die from a knife or did he die from something else? And then I was just like, I think it's him. And then I just clung on to that the whole time.
There's also one point where Poirot says everyone in this room has something to hide, and then like one by one the characters reveal what it was that they're keeping from Poirot, and the doctor never does until obviously like the end. So
yes.
Yeah, that would have been a great hint for me, but I just didn't even pay attention.
What did you think? What was your suspicions of what was going on? I'm very curious.
I figured it was one of the people in the house, and I don't know why, but I thought it could be the old lady.
Mrs. Ackroyd, yeah.
Yeah, that's who I thought.
Ooh,
She was so dramatic.
I know. But now that I just appreciate like people who write mysteries so much, because like it's one thing to write a story, but I feel like you have to really like understand like human nature to write a mystery, right? Because not only do you have to come up with the events, but like you've got to, I don't know, make sure that you've got to create the mystery and then all the steps to solve it and include that in your story as well. Like,
yes,
it's a feat.
And I don't think that just because we had our suspicions, like that makes it any less well written of a mystery. Because if I didn't know the trope of an unreliable narrator, I probably would not have suspected him. So like I think that I can get why this became a very popular one.
That's a good point, Angela, because sometimes people will kind of like, if they're rating a book, they'll like take a star away because I was able to guess what was going to happen. But that's not necessarily a flaw, in my opinion. I don't know, you guys might think differently.
I think in this case, it's kind of actually rewarding in a sense to know or to suspect who it is. For me, it was in the sense that certain little things I started to like make sense that I don't think that I would have like noticed or picked up otherwise. So, like, for instance, I just kept wondering, like, why, like, the way that the doctor was writing, and like, why is he writing this account? And like, why is he not really talking very much about himself? He seems to be very focused on everyone else. He's not very, like, reflective. And I just thought he was so sketchy. He like never went in, but I think what really bothered me was he never went into the details of like what would have been like the autopsy, which is what I was like, you're the doctor, you know this. Like, why is this the one piece of information that you're like really supposed to know about this like murder, and that is supposed to like reveal like what's happened? But how can I buy that, you know, that he died from like a knife to the neck and not like poisoning or something else? Or so I just thought, yeah, that was just so like to me. I just wanted to know more.
Yeah, one of my perks of like you said, like it could make, I will say, I think like guessing that thinking it was him did kind of lower the excitement of the book, because like there wasn't any as much of like a surprise or anything like that. Like he said, "Oh, Dr. Shepard," with an exclamation mark, and I was like, yeah. But like,
we get it.
Like, yeah.
Meanwhile, I was like, oh.
I know. No, but like I will say that a lot of times, especially with thrillers, like you might want to reread it if there's a big plot twist to see what you missed all along. And like having thought that all along and like tabbed it, a lot of the scenes with Poirot, like you could tell that he knew it was the doctor, and he would say these things like remember when he was talking to Caroline and him, and he was describing how a man that seems so kind and normal could all of a sudden like turn, and then Caroline was like, "Oh yeah, Ralph," but like he was like, "Oh, I was chilled by that," and stuff. And it was like he was clearly talking about the doctor right in front of the doctor, and like you wouldn't quite, I don't know, it was just kind of interesting. You could tell by the little things that he was saying that it was just a second level to the. Oh, sorry, there was a comment.
Yeah, hey,
there's
Rob.
a second. Hi.
Can we pull this up and talk about it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Rob said, could you read a mystery book from beginning to end if you already know the plot twist? And that's kind of what you just started saying, Angela. He says,
you even started the book?
Yeah, he says,
Ooh,
the journey is the fun part, but sadly, I knew what happened beforehand, and it lost its draw to me.
Yeah.
I do agree with Angela, though. It can be kind of fun, like if you're reading it a second time through and picking up on the little clues that you missed the first time, or like you said, like, "Oh, I see what Poirot's doing here." Or like, he knows something. Like, it can be kind of satisfying doing that, I think.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like I've read And Then There Were None probably like 3 times, and I always just enjoy the process of like going back through the mystery and the every little thing that happens, even though I know how it ends. I just enjoy it.
And sometimes, because I watch a lot of murder mysteries more than read them, like watch TV series and stuff. And actually, a lot of times I watch it more for like the central cast of the detective and the detective's sidekick and like his family, like that central cast of characters going through the motions of solving crime more than out of a curiosity of like what's gonna happen and who did it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I get very, very, very consumed in the details and the puzzle, and that's my favorite part of watching like murder documentaries and that sort of thing, and coming up with like a million different theories of how it could be. So I do get a little bit of a buzz when like I'm even like somewhat close to be exact.
Yeah.
Just like a little buzz. But that doesn't. I guess like when like assessing how much I enjoyed or like how good a book is, that's not like the defining characteristic necessarily.
It's just fun. Detective Sarah.
It does kind of feel unfair though, like what Angela said earlier, like if you get to the end of the mystery, you've been trying to figure it out the whole way, and then right at the end there's this extra detail that like means that someone else is like, well, I could never have figured that out. Like I needed that extra piece. Like it doesn't feel as satisfying as like you described if from the beginning there are kind of little hints scattered and like you could conceivably pick it. Maybe even if you couldn't have figured it out, at least you can look back and think, oh yeah. But yeah, so there's definitely some that are more satisfying that way than others, I think.
Yeah, I feel like if someone writes a mystery and then doesn't give any of the clues away, that's almost cheating.
I honestly think it is.
Yeah.
If you don't until the end.
Okay, so I've got lots of questions here. And this one is kind of basic, but I just wanted to know, like, how did your reading of this book go? Like, was it fast-paced for you? Was it kind of a drag? Did you listen to audiobook, physical? Like, how'd you do it?
I read it physically, and since most of it is dialogue, it's really fast.
Yeah.
I listened to it on audiobook just because it's a classic, so they have it on YouTube. And I don't actually like listening to this sort of thing on audiobook because I just feel like there's so many details, and like I tend to remember character names better when I see them and as opposed to hear them. And I just like being able to go back and, like reread a bit or flip back in the pages and kind of like, oh, who is this again? And then flip back and figure out remind myself who it was. So yeah.
I can see that.
Kind of a mixture. Like I did a little bit of physical book, I did a little bit of audiobook, and I did a lot of Spark Notes.
Oh, Spark Notes.
Nice.
I love Spark Notes so much because I just find like little details that I may not have necessarily like gotten. But I did like the audiobook because how do I say the detective's name? Poirot? Poirot? Poirot?
Poirot, yeah.
So I really liked his narration quite a bit. It was really like comical and over the top and dramatic and everything that I wanted.
Yeah, Sarah, I feel like me and you must have listened to the same audiobook.
Probably with his French accent.
I will say a problem with me is that I do not process books as well, like audibly, as I would reading them. So that could have had like bearing on me just being completely clueless. And I also listened to the book like while I was like cooking and washing dishes and doing a puzzle. And I think that like for a mystery, if you're really serious about wanting to figure it out, you probably need to like be immersed in it and not just like passively listening.
I think certain writing styles too lend themselves better to audio or not. Like I'm trying to think of an example. I had just recently listened to an audiobook, The Echo Wife, which is, I wouldn't really call it a thriller, but I guess they're kind of categorizing it as a thriller. And since it's more contemporary, it's not that, like, it just sounds like someone's talking to you, like normal. But since Christie's books were from the earlier 1900s, it's not that they talk that differently or anything, but there's just like almost like more of, it's not as like our vernacular currently as much. So it's not necessarily as easy for me personally anyway to listen to. I would need to read it more.
I'm the opposite on that point so much.
Oh,
it's so
cool.
funny. Like, I find it so dry just to read it. Like, the dialogue, it doesn't have any, I'm sorry, like, it just doesn't have very much life to me when I read Agatha Christie. But when I listen to it, suddenly I'm like, oh my goodness, I understand where the characters are coming from. I understand their mood and their tone, because when I read it, I don't get the jokes.
Okay, I have a concession to make about that, about my point of view of it. I agree with you in some ways, because that's how I felt reading The Hobbit. It just felt like so. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was. I feel the same as your review. I saw your review on Goodreads, Sarah, and like I felt the same. Like it was just like go from here, go to there, go from here, go to there. And these are like some of my favorite movies in the world and stuff. And so I was just like, this is kind of boring. And I was slogging through, but I listened to it on audio, and it just shined. Like it was so much better. So I can see what you mean in some ways. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I don't feel that way all the time now I think about it.
I agree with that. It depends on the style of book, but I for mysteries, for me, there's just so many characters and so many details. I find them easier to read. But if you have someone doing like at the same time, Sarah, if you have a good a really good narrator who's doing the different voices and who's like that can be really, really good as well.
It gave me some
and that can help you distinguish the characters and stuff. Yeah.
It's funny, like some people really love that kind of like writing style though, right? Like I have friends who are like plot centered, like action all the way, like the least descriptive detail possible. Just give me dialogue and action and that's it. And like I'm sure that Agatha Christie chose to write her books in that way, like for a reason, right? Because they are more action, like plot-centered stories.
I think it's also because the nature of like the mystery is that it's supposed to be like you solved through pure reason and not through like emotions or like I feel like it's this person or so it's almost like here are the facts, here's exactly what everyone said, here's exactly what everyone did. Mm-hmm. Figured out like and so it feels kind of like less, I guess, fleshed out in the emotions and the like I don't know, I guess less description around the
less bias maybe.
Less flowery language and
Yeah,
I like that point, Laura. And, you know, we haven't mentioned Sherlock Holmes yet, but I adore Sherlock Holmes. I read every single Sherlock Holmes story. And Dr. Watson is a doctor. And, you know, he's Sherlock's assistant who kind of notes everything that happens in the cases and things like that. And there was kind of a big parallel here between Dr. Watson and Dr. Shepherd. And I didn't know if, like, Agatha Christie maybe kind of did that, like, on purpose.
She talked about Sherlock. She mentioned it in here, actually. Didn't she? Remember?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, at one point they said Sherlock Holmes. So you're probably right. Clearly she knows Sherlock Holmes very well.
Oh, so much. Yeah. That parallel was there for sure.
And it goes off of what you said, Laura, about, I don't know. I mean, I kind of was thinking of parallels between like being a doctor and being a detective. Like
there's so many.
Yeah. Like when you're trying to do like a diagnosis and you look at the different like symptoms and you piece together what's going on and you think about how to prescribe the best solution. Like a detective has to do the same thing, take the little pieces and solve the mystery. So it's just
all that being a doctor is like a huge component is that detective work. I love pathology because every time that you have a case, you have to do some sort of detective work. That's basically all it is putting a puzzle together with every single case that you have. Sometimes the puzzle is very simple. Other times you can't put it together, even if you try your hardest with the best specialists in the world.
Oh, and I love that. So you're kind of like a detective too.
Yeah, exactly. Always trying to figure out what the root cause is.
Would your job as well, like, would you be taking into account other details other than like what you find in the actual autopsy? Like, would you be interviewing like family member? I'm just curious, like, would you be looking at like their more like broader health background or talking to family members and stuff too, or?
Yeah, so as a pathology scientist, and doing autopsies, I had that first question too when I first started to do like forensics. I was just like, well, what if it is like we should suspect this person and this person. We should get this information. And they were like, no, that's for the criminal investigation. All that you have to say is whether it was a natural death, accidental, homicide, suicide, or like unknown, or like, I'm not sure if I said so, but, or natural like causes. That's really like all that you do. But with forensics, you do have some information provided to you, and depending on how far along the criminal investigation is, you are privy to a lot of evidence that you would see, such as video footage and notes, and like for instance like a suicide note or those sorts of things. So you do have access to some of that information, but that's only so far as to get you to what the cause of death is. It's not who should be held accountable for it. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
Detective Sarah. Okay, so how do you guys feel about the fact that our criminal, Dr. Shepard, eluded justice? What do you like? Were you mad? And what do you think that says about Poirot that he let it happen?
Well, I think at that time, the sentence he was most likely to get was hanging. So I think either way he would have died, and I think I think maybe either, you know, like Poirot didn't agree with the penalties of the justice system, or, you know, he thought either way he's going to die, and this will spare his family and loved ones a lot of grief. So I'm not sure if he escaped justice, because he did take his life. So yeah.
Fair point. Yeah. But people, like, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but like people might argue that the morally correct thing for Poirot to do would be to like follow the procedures of justice. And in a lot of ways, like, I feel like Poirot does not always disclose information to investigators when is considered most appropriate. So maybe how do you think that a like police officer would respond to the way Poirot went about doing things?
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said he, like, you're right that he died, but he got to keep his reputation. So in that way, I guess he didn't face justice.
And
yeah.
I think that as the doctor of the town, that he really should have been held accountable. Not just, I think that people should have known what he had done, because his lives were in so many people's hands. Like, as a physician, this is like the ultimate, like, he is scum. Basically,
he broke the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah, so I really, really, really think that he should have been held accountable, and people should have known. Like, I wonder what else he's done. This is the only like murder that we know of. So I wonder what else he's done. Not necessarily to the extent of murder, but what sort of other lapses in professionalism that has hurt others have happened as well. So I think that warrants not just, like others to know what had happened, but I think ethically there should be other people should know.
My only question about that is that if you want to take emotions out of it, like that doesn't, number one, like it doesn't bring Roger back to life. And number two, like if he is going to die anyway, they're still not going to know the answers. And so wouldn't it, do you mean like they would have to question him and he would confess to like anything else he might have done? Or what do you mean? Because like if like
I would have quite a lot of questions for a physician who has murdered someone.
Yeah, but would he tell the truth though anyway? And that would just make the whole town question everything and they might not get the answer anyway. So is that actually just causing more stress?
I feel like when someone gets outed as having done something, then a lot of other people start coming forward if they, do you know what I mean? Or like, if it's revealed that someone's capable of doing a crime like murder, it makes people rethink other situations where something fishy might have gone on, but people let it pass because of the doctor's reputation or whatever.
I thought they made a point in the book to say that he hadn't done, this was the only, like, oh, I have it somewhere. The lecture about how he said, like, it was the attraction of money that did it. Like he, an otherwise, a very ordinary man with no idea of murder in his heart, and it's never come to play before, but now he just wants money, and that's it. Like,
Can you remind me why he murdered Roger? I can't remember. You're right. I should have read it.
No,
because he was blackmailing
the other woman, Mrs. Farrar?
Mrs. Farrar, because what had she done?
She poisoned her husband.
Her husband.
Yeah.
And Roger Ackroyd had a relationship with this woman, and she had told him that she was being blackmailed by the doctor.
It was. Did she say it was him, or was he just not sure? I can't remember.
She'd written him a letter.
Yeah, she had.
But I don't even know if it was certain that she had told him who it was. I feel like it was the fear of maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think so.
So it was kind of just speculated that Ackroyd knew, and that's why Shepard.
Well, she had committed suicide, and she had left a letter, and I guess Dr. Shepard didn't know what was in this letter, but he had basically driven her to suicide and was afraid that he was going to be revealed for that. Okay, I remember now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if that was Poirot just guessing, or if that was like a real thing that like this is the only bad thing that he's done just because he wanted the money, because he was the one who did the autopsy on her husband and like suspected that she poisoned him. So that's how that one thing is like how he figured out how he can like blackmail her and get a lot of money, because he said he'd always wanted to travel and all of that stuff. So it's like I don't know. If no more information would come out, I almost feel like it might be like cruel to like give people a lot more questions than you know what I mean? Like if everyone's like, oh wow, my doctor was a murderer, and Caroline's like, my brother was a murderer, and like that still doesn't change the outcome. So if the end is the same, I don't know.
But it might. I think that there's a lot of power in sharing the truth with others about what had been done. And I think that whether or not I don't care about his reputation, I think it can burn for all it's worth. But I think that people would have questions, and those questions deserve to be answered.
You think he would answer them, though?
I think they could do an investigation.
There's been a few real life examples of doctor murders in Canada anyway. Like there was one nurse who had been murdering patients, but There was also recently a doctor in Ontario, I think. Oh, I can't remember those
I
details.
remember
Yeah.
about this.
Oh, what are the details though? Anyway, he was arrested for murder. I will do a quick Google search and we'll just see if it's worth talking about.
I actually thought that I didn't know. I figured that he was probably the one blackmailing and whatnot, but I also thought that, remember when the lawyer was reading over Roger Ackroyd's will and he'd mentioned that the charities, the money is going to go to hospitals? And Poirot was just like, oh, I don't care about charities, whatever. And it brushed past that really quick. I thought maybe that was a part of it. Like maybe if Roger Ackroyd was murdered, then the hospitals that the doctor worked for could get a bunch of money or something like that. Or he had like, you know, like, because doctor hospitals, they brushed past that really quick. I was like, I thought that was going to have something to do with it. But obviously he's just really selfish. So no.
I
To
feel like
answer Rob's question, I do not recall where I was the night of the murder. I plead the fifth.
Nice. Okay, well, let's move on to another question. Go to my outline here.
Gosh, I wish
the
my cat
doctor
just cuddled me in my lap like that.
was in Hawkesbury in Ontario, and he killed a patient, I think, murdered a patient, and then there was investigations into whether that had happened before, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, I think too that he should have had more of a discussion, but just like in that little small town in that case and the way that they described it as like this was the one thing that he did, and I don't know. I'm like, is that the best? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because this was like a different small town, a different time period. Like, I don't know. He wasn't like he was a doctor and he was a surgeon, it said, but like he wasn't really affiliated. Like it wasn't like it is today, I feel like. I don't know how to explain it.
He's like a small town kind of guy.
Yeah, like he just kind of comes in and out and they come to his house and stuff. And
he did he didn't murder someone like under the guise of doing his job, you know.
Health,
it wasn't
right.
Yeah. But I think back then, like so much like men who became doctors, because it would have been mostly only men, they just like they had such a reputation, and in jobs where you need like trust, the reputation is so important. But I think people could get away with all sorts of things because there was such like a reverence or like a respect for the town doctor or whatever. So
people totally did.
And like just to add into that though, I feel like in positions like doctors or like me, I'm a teacher, like you are kind of held to a different level, like even outside of your professional life, because you like are like a layer of trust and like professionalism is required of your position because you have so much responsibility. And so like, you know, when you're getting into that is something that's required of you. And so for me as a teacher, hearing about like a doctor doing something like that, like you just broke the code. You
broke the Hippocratic oath like times 1,000.
Mm-hmm. But I get what you're saying.
On the other side of the coin, though, like I think someone's reputation, like now, you know, if your brother committed murder, I don't know, you would still carry that with you everywhere. But maybe it would have been more devastating for Carol, because I think Poirot did it to save Carolyn's reputation more than anything. And maybe back then, like her reputation, like that would have meant more than it does today. I don't know.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, think about Pride and Prejudice. Remember when the sister that ran away?
Lydia.
And like, yeah, Lydia. And then everyone was like, our whole family is ruined because of her actions. And now none of your sisters are going to get married. Nothing's going to, like, and I'm like, yeah, that was kind of and like you think about reputations getting passed down, and like and I know he didn't have any kids or anything, but as Poirot said, it's about his sister and stuff too. So that's kind of what I meant when I was like, it's a different time as well to think about, because like his one action, like it wasn't about his patients, it was about a guy that the money thing and whatnot. And so I still agree, like I still think that it should have been brought out for everyone's peace of mind, because I'm also questioning, like, how Poirot said they're going to take care of it. What are they going to do? What are they going to tell the townspeople? Like, because it's in the newspaper. I'm like, what are you going to say then if you're going to keep it a secret? How are you going to say he was murdered? Like, that confused me.
Yeah, and in the note he said, like, I trust to Poirot and to like Inspector Dadala that they will. Yeah, I didn't really. I didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
It's just different back then, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it should have come out, because and also to clear everyone else too, because everyone else was a suspect, and like they were talking about over mahjong and stuff like that. Like everyone was a suspect. So I don't know what they were gonna do, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're kind of divided on this one. I don't know. But it's really just it's a difficult kind of thing, because I appreciate how Poirot wanted to protect Caroline's reputation, but I also have like very strong opinions about justice and truth. and like
wait, are you an INFJ?
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. That explains it all. We have very strong J.
Yeah. So I think that's where the crux of the matter, like that's where I differ with you guys because of that.
Well, I said I agree with you personally. Like I'm an INFJ too. Like I agree personally.
Oh, you are? Yes, you are.
Yeah, no, I agree personally, but I have like, it's not like a super strong feeling, because I also think that like things were different back then, and this case was a little different, and who it affects and whatnot. So like, yeah, I do agree, but I'm also like, yeah, it was kind of, I mean, Poirot has dealt with a lot of cases. So I feel like he wouldn't just let like a murderer, loose, because he doesn't know. The guy could have just ran away instead of, taking the medication. He could have ran away in those 24 hours, and I don't think that Poirot would like want that either. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Why didn't he do that? Now I'm thinking about that. Why would you just
know.
take that medication? Why wouldn't you just vanish? I guess about your reputation again. It would all just come back to that, your reputation.
Okay, speaking of vanishing, to change the subject, have you guys heard, I think, Angela, you mentioned it actually, about how Agatha Christie herself vanished for 13 days? Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
That was the year that this book actually came out, oddly enough.
Interesting. So, yeah, apparently Agatha Christie disappeared for 13 days, and nobody really still knows what she did during that time.
Do you want me to tell you? Because I watched a whole thing about it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So basically she has a daughter, her and her husband was having an affair. And she decided that she was going to go into town. She wrote a letter saying, I'm going into town, some like British town, I don't know. And they found her car like on the side of the road and didn't know where she went. And I'm like, well, in the letter she said she's going into town, but no one supposedly could find her, and like we're looking everywhere. And they had like I think it was one of the first times that they like employed a helicopter for search and rescue, they said, like and like there were like thousands of people looking for her. And it turns out that she was doing what she said in the letter. I was having a spa time in this place, and she was like dancing and going to spas and different stuff like that. But the thing so Agatha finally said in a late interview later in her life, because she was like, I want to clear the air here, because everyone was like suspicious of her. She said that what had happened to her is she was thinking about going over the cliff in her car because she was so upset. She hit a bump and she hit her head, and it triggered memory. Like complete amnesia and she did not know who she was, and she thought she was some fictional person. And so she went and checked into the hotel under a fake name because she didn't, I guess it was some type of concussion or something. And so she even said at the time, like, she was showing people the newspaper. She's like, I look like this woman, don't I? And like claimed that like she didn't know. And then eventually one of the musicians at the band where she was dancing was like, hey, I think this lady is her or something. And then she worked with like these psychologists to help get her memories back, and eventually her memories came back. That's her story, but it's still unsolved because some people don't believe her. They think that like she did this whole thing maybe to drum up stuff for her books or as to get revenge against her husband or something. But her story is she has amnesia and she was like, did not know who she was the whole time. Wild. It's weirder than fiction. Like if you look into it, like, or watched BuzzFeed Unsolved just did that episode on it. And then like Doctor Who has an episode about it, and it's one of the weirdest things ever. So yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, like she didn't, like immediately after she was found, she didn't have any explanation. Like it was in later interviews. Like because I think after I don't know, I didn't watch the series and I don't know as much about it as you. But she just didn't really have anything to say or like no answers for people initially. Anyway, yeah. And
that's why it was a little more suspicious because people were like, what happened? Like she just turned up. I think she just like turned up somewhere or something like that. And they were like, well, maybe it was because they wanted, but they had said that the Murder of Roger Ackroyd had already been really popular by that time. So it wasn't like she needed to get any more attention for it. So like, I'm inclined to agree with it. Cause like, as they were saying on the show, like truth is stranger than fiction usually is like, why would she make up something that wild? You could have just been like, oh, I mean, I don't know. Like it's so strange to imagine that like actually happened. Yeah.
I don't know, but Sarah, how plausible is that amnesia story? I don't know much about amnesia.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, same.
I mean, it's like really rare, and I have no idea. I don't have the statistics. It's crazy. I don't know if I believe it. I don't know, but like we'll never know. I don't know.
I
really want to watch that series now that you mentioned, Angela.
It's just one episode. It's the second. It was from last week, BuzzFeed Unsolved, and it just goes on about it into details. And yeah, does anybody watch Doctor Who? Did anybody see that episode? No,
I've never seen that.
Oh my god,
but I'd like to watch it now too.
No, like if you don't watch the show and know like, it's so over the top and weird, you probably would not like it. It's very strange. The woman who plays her looks a lot like her.
Looks a lot like Agatha Christie. No, yeah. I know Doctor Who. I just haven't seen that episode. Okay.
This is a season. It's the 10th Doctor, David Tennant, and it's. I don't want to tell you what it is if you're gonna watch it because it's really weird. But trust me, it's really weird. Really weird.
I can believe you, Angela, because I think I've only seen the first episode of Doctor Who, and there were like mannequins, like
oh yeah,
like alive, and it was crazy.
It's weirder than that. Let me put it that way. It's weirder than that. It's weird.
So I've been thinking a little bit kind of about what makes a book like top shelf. And I don't know yet, like I haven't decided on specific criteria, but I would say that probably if it's a book that changes you in some way, or if it's a book that has some kind of like impact in the genre or some kind of important impact or something, that maybe that could make it top shelf. So before we get into talking like, is this a top shelf read? I was just curious, like, do you guys feel like this book changed you in some way or taught you something?
I don't find in general, like I like murder mysteries, but I don't find they tend to have that effect on me. Like I more will read them like a cozy mystery, like to have, to have fun and sort of for escapism. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's like super entertaining, but what life lesson do you take away from it? Not that you have to.
Don't murder people.
Yeah, but I was just curious, like, books speak to people in different ways. Maybe someone learned some valuable lesson.
Sometimes murder mysteries have changed the way that I think of the world in different ways. Like, for instance, oh my gosh, I forget her name. I think her name was Maddie or I forget.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you're talking about.
You know the girl who went missing? The little girl who went missing in Portugal?
I'm pretty sure it was Maddie, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Maddie. And before that, I hadn't really thought about like what could potentially go into like a child going missing. Because I remember learning about this like really early on, and then sort of learning about potentially, I'm not saying this is what happened to her, but the potential for like a child to go missing and for them to basically be sold or exploited or something like that. So when watching that sort of documentary like later on, it just sort of had an effect on me to where I was starting to, just like really question ethics and what it actually means to like be a parent, what sort of harms could actually happen to your child if you were to go on a vacation, like ethics of people around you. And like, I don't know, it sort of changed how I trusted people and how I thought about so many different things. Like so many like sort of complex issues sort of went into my mind after that. So sometimes I'll watch a documentary like that on a murder mystery, and it will just completely blow my mind in some sort of way, and I won't be able to like shake it. There's like a Netflix documentary on it that I would definitely recommend. Like if I were to say like that would be a top shelf or like a top shelf like documentary DVD or something like that, where I think that it really, I think people should watch it or something like that, but not everyone should because of the content within it. For me, any type of top shelf read either has to be something that just I am super interested in. It like captivated me. I love it, and I think that other people would love it. Those sorts of things. Or it has to just completely shake my worldview in some sort of capacity, like Fahrenheit 451, for instance, or for me, Mexican Gothic.
I was thinking about that for you, yeah.
Yeah, like it just has to, something has to like change inside of me a little bit after reading it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with that, is there anything else you guys want to discuss? Any event or character, plot point, questions you had remaining?
I do.
Okay.
Why did they think it would be okay to put this on the cover? Is that not a spoiler? Like, that this is going to be something important, whereas you would not have thought that if it wasn't on the cover? Like,
I didn't put that together until now because I didn't look at it close enough to see what that was. But now, now that you're saying it, I feel really stupid for not having.
No, I just because I had seen at the bookstore the other day, like someone had donated like a set of Agatha Christie's, and they were all black with gold foil, just the title, and I'm like, that's exactly what a murder mystery or a mystery should be. Just the title, nothing, like you go in. And then I looked at my book and I'm reading it and I'm like, well, this is going to be something. So I'm paying attention for it. And then when it starts to come up, I'm like, also, I think that this is wrong though, because this is a phone and it wasn't a phone. It was a dictaphone in the book.
I think maybe that's what dictaphones used to look like.
They used to look like that. I'm wondering what these it's like got the numbers to make phone calls. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. But either way, I just feel like that's a bad idea for whoever created
I think
these
you got to be
covers.
careful making a book cover. That's for sure for a murder mystery in any sort of case.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found like that kind of odd. I was like, isn't that like not what you should do? Because now you're gonna give people. Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I noticed the
Very
little details.
perceptive.
I don't know. That's my thing. Is like I'm very detail oriented, and I feel like that kind of. I was like, okay, well, this is clearly going to be important. And then whenever he was in his workshop fiddling with mechanics, and it was a phone there, I was like, there's even more evidence that it was him. You know.
I feel like the whole dictaphone thing would have packed a bigger punch at the time that the book was published, because now we're like a recorded voice. That's nothing
That's true.
new, or that's nothing incredible. We have recordings like everywhere all the time now. But at the time, maybe that was sort of a twist.
I almost feel like that's kind of what I keep having to try to do, because it's hard to look at books from a long time ago in your current time, and I don't know that it'll always have the same impact. You know, like how we were talking about the ending, it might have been different back then. How we were talking about like this kind of stuff, I don't know. It's just hard, and like we know unreliable narrators now, but back then, did they? So was this like a huge thing or not? I don't know. It's kind of
and I think you said it right at the beginning. Like it's especially hard with something as iconic as Agatha Christie, because so much since Agatha Christie has been inspired by her mysteries, and she sort of helped to shape, like as did like Conan Doyle, helped to shape the whole genre of murder mysteries. So when we read it, we've seen like 1,000 other renditions of similar, like we've seen the genre progress, but the genre was based off of these like seminal, I don't know if I'm using that word right, but these like foundational authors like Agatha Christie and Conan Doyle. So when we look back, it doesn't feel like it's new, but they actually just like invented that trope, or invented the genre of murder mystery.
I knew. I was like, this is such an overused device. Wait a minute. Yeah.
All right. You ready to say if it's a top shelf read? Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know this. I probably have mentioned it, but I was an English major in college on top of like an education major. So I did both. And because of that English major in me, I say that The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is in fact a top shelf read. I know. I think I've come to the conclusion that for something to be top shelf, like it either has to be revolutionary to me, or it has to be revolutionary in some kind of way. And I don't know that this was the very first time there was an unreliable narrator used, but I feel like this book was such an important influence for all this other literature going forward, using like unreliable narrators, and just like in the literary canon as a whole, like it was very influential. And so I think because of that, like, and because like I genuinely was so shocked.
I wish we could have seen that.
Like, I just did not see it at all. And like, just like, I still feel like the like thrill of surprise every time I think about it.
That's like the best feeling.
I know. And so I just feel like it was just artfully crafted, and the use of the unreliable narrator was so influential that it earned a top shelf read from me. Yay! That's the first one in a long time. I can't remember the last time I had a top shelf read. I feel like it was Fahrenheit 451. So I'm happy.
That's really, was it really?
It may have been. I can't remember. I need to look at it and see, but it's been a while.
It's been time. That's been some time.
I know. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So it wasn't a top shelf read for me. Just I really enjoyed it and it was really fun to read. I just don't think it will stick with me. But I love, like, I actually get so excited when other people find. So like Kristen, when you said, I'm like, yeah, I love like when other people find something that is that. So it wasn't really anything against the book. It was just, I don't think I'll remember it. I mean, I will remember it, but not more than other things that I've read recently. So, yeah.
I can go. I'm going to give myself permission to cheat a little bit here because I'm just being truthful. You know how sometimes like you'll have a series of books and maybe like one of the books might not be your favorite, but the series as a whole you really enjoy and you think is really important and great. That's kind of how I look at the specifically the Poirot books of Agatha Christie, because like I know she's written a lot of others, but I just love that guy. He's great, and I love the perspective that he brings and what he does as a detective. He's such a good detective for me. And so like I would not say that this specific book is a top shelf read, but because it's not really like that different to me to any of the other ones. Like a murder mystery is a murder mystery. Like it's, you know, that you have a cast of characters and you know that they're probably didn't all like they didn't all do the murder, but they all did something that they're not telling about, and that was kind of shady, you know? And to me, I love that formula. It's really funny and fun. So my cheating is that like I would not say that this specific one was a top shelf read, but I do think that Agatha Christie's murder mysteries are, for like what Kristen said, like what they have done for the genre, and for like I know what I'm getting when I pick one up, and I know I won't be disappointed either, you know, like it's just a good time. So that's my cheating, is like not specifically, but generally, yes. Does that make sense? Is that fair, or do I have to pin it down?
I get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah?
That leaves you. And then there was one.
Oh, okay. For me, no. It was not a top shelf read. Okay. So what I thought about this book. Okay. So I really did not like the writing very much. I didn't really find it very captivating. But I liked the narration like quite a bit. I like the narrated version quite a bit. And I really liked the Spark Notes, breaking it down, analysis, and that sort of thing. So yeah. Yeah, not a top shelf read for me, but I appreciate it in a historical sort of sense of upping the game of murder mysteries.
That's good, Sarah.
Yeah.
I feel like you're nervous about your answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's just sometimes like I'll read a book and it's like it's like an important book like Emma or however, and it's just not my book, you know?
Yeah, that's okay.
No, but I really did enjoy like the detective quite a bit. I thought he was pretty snazzy.
I wonder if there's another one that you would like more.
I think, have you read And Then There Was None?
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like.
Because I DNF'd it.
Oh,
But maybe I'll listen to it, and who knows how it goes. I think I just like where I'm at with yeah, you know.
Okay, so Rob, I actually really like this point that you made, because Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. How many of you guys have read that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I
same
haven't
thing,
seen
right?
that
Like
one.
massively.
Don't say anything. Laura hadn't read it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear. I didn't know if you heard her.
I can go
Yeah.
away for a minute if you want, or I can plug my ears for a minute.
No, it's okay. We know what he means.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you know, I think that her introducing certain devices is pretty cool. I think that was, I mean, you kind of have to. And every single year, like even reading like murder like mysteries, I'll find, oh my gosh, I'll find some that are just so incredibly good. And so I think that what she did, I appreciate that quite a bit.
Are you an atmosphere? I mean, not an atmosphere reader, but do you find if a book's atmosphere is really something that you like, you end up liking it more, or no? Do you not really care?
Mexican Gothic.
Okay. Because I was gonna say that like for example, it might not be the same if you don't like her writing. That might just be a no-go in general. But I personally love Egypt, and Death on the Nile is one of her more popular ones. And just like having it be on a riverboat in Egypt, and then they go and visit sites occasionally and stuff, and like it's a very contained murder because they're on a boat, and then they might sometimes go look at like a pyramid or something like that. Like, to me, I love that even more because of the atmosphere of where it is. So like she's written 75 plus books, so like if there's one that has like a setting that you particularly like, maybe that might be the only chance you'll have.
I'll try I think it was the Orient Express.
Yeah, if you like
I'll
trains.
try that one. Yeah, I'll try that one because I like trains.
Yeah, so maybe it might be like an atmosphere thing that might help, but maybe not. It might just not be the writing that you like, but
it could be.
And then you can watch the movie after. I really liked the new Murder on the Orient Express movie.
A lot of people did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen that.
I didn't, and I didn't watch the whole thing because I started to watch it, and so many people said they didn't like it that I didn't finish it. So I don't know. I can't say I didn't finish it, but yeah, maybe it's the people around me.
I don't know. I thought it was fun.
I'll have to finish it. No, you're probably right.
I really liked I think it was a BBC miniseries, the Death on the Nile miniseries, because it was that actor, and I think Emily Blunt was in it when she was like first starting off too, and like it's just a really like fun to see Poirot in action, you know, like it's great.
It's funny. There's something about a murder mystery that's like comfortable. like you wouldn't like, it sounds like so paradoxical, but like you go in to read a murder mystery and you know the formula, and it's really like just comforting.
Yeah, well, I think there's something about this style of murder mystery that's different. Like I think a lot of people who listen to, for instance, like a true crime podcast, or like who are really into more modern mysteries, wouldn't automatically like something like this because it's not about the action, it's like about the puzzle, and you're not reading it like, oh my god, what's going to happen next. It's just, I find it just an overall like comfortable experience. It's my emotions aren't heightened.
I think the small town kind of element kind of feeds into that a little bit. One I guess series that I like, which is super typical, but it's I forget what the series is called, but there's a book called I think it's let me look it up so I'm not just saying things. Oh, I got it. It's called A Tale of Two Tabbies, like cats.
Aww.
And like it has a 4.7 on Goodreads. It's just absolutely adorable. It's one of my favorite mysteries I have ever read. And the series is called Whales and Tales Mystery Books.
Oh,
that's precious.
They're just like small town, like little cozy mysteries, and each one is just super, super like adorable. I mean, it all has to do with murder, but like it's really cozy and cute, and there's a bakery and there's cats.
Yeah,
So it's really cute.
Sounds right down my alley.
Aw.
I don't know if you guys can see behind me on my bookshelf, but I have like all of these Nancy Drew books. With, like,
Yes, I loved Nancy Drew.
yeah, so like even as a child, like
Boxcar
mysteries,
Children.
yes, like those books were just so special to me. So it really is like, I don't know, like reading a mystery and getting a warm hug.
You know, maybe I'm observant because of Encyclopedia Brown. Did you guys read those?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You had to like figure it out yourself. It would say, "Oh," and then he figured it out, and then you had to like go to the back of the book or turn the page or something to find the answer, so you could figure it out first. If you noticed the detail, that was what. You know what I mean?
Those books.
Yeah, those are amazing. So maybe that's what gets us like that made me end up paying attention to the little things, because I thought that was a unique element when you got to try to solve it, you know, rather than just like a chapter book. Although, man, I loved those too. Nancy Drew, Boxcar Children. I wasn't really into the Hardy Boys, but like,
Me either.
I don't know.
A book that isn't cozy whatsoever, but I'll plug it. It's a really just good mystery, I suppose. It's very dark and it's very twisted, but it's like a definite like 5-star read. Monday's Not Coming
I've heard of that.
by Tiffany D. Jackson. This book.
Why do I know Tiffany D. Jackson?
Oh, what did she's also written some like other amazing books that I
Maybe
haven't read.
that's why. Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, this book really had me like really gripped like from the get-go and like going through it, and I read it in like one sitting, which never happens with me. I'm like a very slow reader. And this book was just amazing. I read it and I listened to the audiobook as I was reading it, and it was just it's really good. It's like contemporary. But maybe The Firekeeper's Daughter is going to be like really good as well, because I think that's, yeah, we had mentioned that it has like murder in it.
Oh yeah.
It does.
Witnesses a shocking murder, thrusting her into an FBI investigation of a lethal new drug.
If you want, go ahead. If you want if we're doing recommendations, if you want a more magical, realist, fantasy type murder mystery, Alatsoe by Darcy Little Badger is like, it's
spell that.
Elatsoe. Alatsoe. It's technically a middle grade, but it's not really, or is it an adult? I can't remember. The writing is super easy. It's to go through, and that was another one. There you go. It's
I've seen it from you,
so
Sarah.
Pretty. It's such a good book, and it is kind of like a murder mystery, but then you add on fantastical elements and indigenous elements too, because that's like what I don't want to say like what the character's special ability is or whatnot, but like it's surprisingly really good, and I would almost call it cozy. Would you, Sarah? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of cozy.
I put it down and I'm bringing it back up when the weather cools down a little bit more.
Okay. Sorry.
But don't worry. It didn't sink anything that could potentially give anything away ever.
No, I didn't want to give any spoilers. I just, I don't know if, it's kind of cozy in the fact that like it's a little more fantasy driven, but it also has the beautiful elements of the culture and like the artwork. Yes. So like, and it is about like her, I believe her cousin was killed.
It's her cousin.
Yeah, and they're not admitting that it's a murder, but they go to the little small town anyway because they're like, I think that he was murdered, and then like, it's really good. That was another really good one.
We literally just added this to our TBR at the same time. Laura just added on Goodreads that she wants to read it.
Yeah, I just added Monday's Not Coming. Grown is the other one by Tiffany D. Jackson that I've heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to read it so bad, but I need to be in the right like mental space.
That's a hard one I've heard. Yeah.
Difficult one.
Yeah. So we've got 2 recommendations. Any others?
I actually don't read a lot of murder. I watch so many on TV, and I don't know why, but I don't read it. I don't read many.
Sherlock
I like
Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Like iconic. There's no better pair, in my opinion, than Sherlock and Watson. And I also love the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah,
oh my
oh my
word.
god, I love that series too. Actually, I just started. They're on BookTube a lot. The Frida Klein series. It's like a psychoanalyst who she has her own practice, but she helps sort of helps the police out solving crimes. I just started the first book in that series, so I can't recommend the series. I mean, I finished the first book, but I can't recommend the series yet. But that is another mystery.
I have heard of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I do want to read that one. And then I'm going to read this at some point. Did I recommend this to you, Angela? I think I may have.
No,
The Last
not that one.
Confession of Autumn Casterly. This one looks really,
Maybe.
really good. And here's another one that I have here somewhere, but it's probably hiding right now.
Oh, it just hit me. The Vanishing Stare in
Maureen Johnson.
Yeah, she has like a trilogy that is kind of takes place at a boarding school type thing, or maybe I think it's a boarding school.
Yeah.
And there's a murder mystery, and I really enjoyed those.
I
really enjoyed the first
YA.
one.
That was my only difficulty because I wasn't really a teenager when I was a teenager, so like now even I'm like, oh.
I can relate.
But yeah, that does have that like boarding school vibes and stuff. Yeah, that was a good.
Yeah.
In the winter, wasn't it like constantly in the snow
Yeah.
storm? That would be a good one for winter time, a cozy winter. Yeah, we've got lots of recommendations.
Oh, I have a trash. Just not trash. I shouldn't say that. That's a terrible thing to say. Like, wow, a book series. Let's just say it's kind of like a Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
Series. I loved it so much. It's so silly. It's completely ridiculous, and it goes in so many different ways. And the TV show is probably like where it ends up going. Like, it's just the most ridiculous TV show ever, but it's like guilty pleasure. That's what I should say. Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, no shame, Sarah. I love Pretty Little Liars. It's just, it has its different merits.
It does. It really does.
All right, guys. Well, I think we may have reached the end of our show. I will add, this was a live show number 13. Some people say that's an unlucky number. So it's good that at least one of us ended up saying it was top shelf. And hopefully this won't set us up for some bad luck for the next read.
No, I've heard. I really have heard quite amazing things about this one. So
it's so beautiful.
It's just so completely like beautiful, and I just think that it will be such a good read. Like, it was a YA Reese's Book Club award or a club book in her book club in the YA sort of like sector. And just everyone that I've talked to has just like totally like loved this book. So I think it will be swell.
Can't wait. I feel like I need to dish out the money for a hardcover because I just love
that's gorgeous.
Kristen, at Target, it's like $10.50 for the hardcover right now.
Oh,
I
nice.
saw it. So if you're ever
amazing.
at Target, just saying.
I will keep that in mind.
And then you can support the author.
In Canada, it's $26.
Oh no! I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make you jealous.
Well, honestly, Sarah, that's like normal price for like a new hardcover, like from Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, because I looked at Barnes & Noble because I wanted to buy it too to support the author, and then I was at Target and I was like, oh, it's right here in front of me and this is the price?
Yeah, that's nice.
And if they like, if you do that thing where you go, what is that? Ooh, pretty.
I think it's like maybe a little leaf or flame or something.
Yeah.
And if you if on the shelf it says that it's more expensive, then you show them the price that Target has on the website and they will automatically adjust it for you to the website price. Or that's for any item. So
At Target?
Oh, you have Target there too, right? I'm not crazy.
We used to have Target.
They left?
And then they took it away from us. Not fair.
I think it didn't do well.
Yeah, it didn't do well for whatever reason. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
Americans love Target. It's like a staple.
It kind of is.
Yeah, I hear about it on Gilmore Girls.
Although I live more in like the Walmart area, not really the Target. So I have to drive out of town to go to Target. But, yeah,
Walmart doesn't really carry that many books around me.
Mine just started carrying like a better selection. They have a whole row now. Books.
More places to buy books, guys.
I know.
I have to head out. Sorry, guys.
Okay, no, that is fine. Laura, thanks for joining us, and I'm just gonna
see you all next month. I mean, in a month. Happy reading.
We haven't decided on the date yet, but we'll figure it out in the Instagram chat.
Great, perfect.
Okay. All right, and then there were 3. I just want to comment. Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. So Rob says, have a great night, you 4. Also, Mexican Gothic, he's starting it after his current read. Sarah,
well, I hope you are of the some of us who like it. I just hope it's a great book for you. Yes.
Yeah, Rob, my suggestion is just buckle up. It is a wild ride.
Yeah.
And then comment about, lots of Walmarts in the South. All right. And to everyone else, if you watch this later on, I know there's about like 50, 60 consistent people who always catch us up on the rewind later on. Yeah. So when you're watching it later, thanks for stopping by. And we'll see you in the next one when we talk about the Firekeeper's Daughter. Goodbye.
Bye.